At DSW, we ask the important questions, like, what shoes are you going to wear? Whether you're prepping for wedding season, festival season, or just planning the ultimate vacay, the right shoes can make or break an RSVP. So own the moment. You've got big plans, and we've got just the shoes. At the perfect price, of course. Get ready to get ready with Designer Shoe Warehouse. Head to your DSW store or dsw.com today and let us surprise you.
What we can do that's different from just calling him once we're actually in front of him is put a little bit more pressure on him on some of the aspects that really don't make sense.
About his story?
Yeah, because it's clear, I think I can speak for both of us that we think he just definitely deserves a new trial. Mm-hmm. But right now, in terms of whether or not he's innocent, it's just his word versus Justin Davis's.
We got in my truck and we drove out to the park, and then I went over and talked to Nicole on the other side of her vehicle and just made sure everything was good and said, look, give me a call when you get home, make sure you're good and everything like that, While I was talking to her, Justin Bumgardner left the park. Then after I finished talking to Nicole, I left the park.
When we left that park, I cut across and went straight back to Shane's house because that's where Justin Davis's car was parked. Didn't even pull in Shane's driveway and let him out of my truck. He took his gun, holster, got in his car, and I kept on driving and went all the way back into the town of Amherst where I lived.
The witnesses said they heard shots at 9:24. When we got to trial, the prosecutor moved it to 9:15 because they thought it fit a better gap. I had a minute 37-second gap in phone calls between 9:19 and 9:21. Now, Justin Davis had no phone calls from just before 9 o'clock through 10 o'clock. He didn't answer my call or anybody else's or make any calls for that entire hour block, but they never cared to find out why.
My lawyer didn't even own a cell phone and knew absolutely nothing about the technology being presented. So when the prosecutor got up, her expert for all the cell phone evidence that involved my phone, cell phone towers, pinging, and all that, was a Alltel manager from the local Madison Heights store. He was not somebody that worked at headquarters that was a technology expert, didn't have degrees in technology. He was just a manager working at the Alltel store.
I would almost certainly guarantee someone that when he gets out in May, he's going to go back to look and see if that gun's still wherever he hid it. I don't doubt it. Because, a simple DNA test and fingerprint test would prove I never touched the gun.
We just spent the last two and a half hours with Tim Wright at Buckingham Correctional. We interviewed him. We didn't get to bring in cameras, but we had a pad and paper. We were, taking notes, talking to him. He had all of his case files, everything organized with him. Every question we asked him, he had an answer. Every little question that we had before, he clarified for us. He was just completely open with us. Every person who believes that Tim is innocent has a story. That story has stayed the same. It is verifiable, and they are willing to speak to us about it. Everyone who has said, we think Tim is guilty, keeps telling us either not speaking to us or saying the things that we said at the time are accurate and I do not want to speak about them anymore.
Meeting Tim was like an absolute pleasure. He's just kind-hearted, he's smiling a lot, really tries to be upbeat in a very negative, brutal prison environment. And after meeting him and just talking over all the details of the case, once again, I think we can both agree that we think he's innocent.
Yeah, I'm completely convinced.
Before I went to the prison, I had never met Valentino in person. I'd never seen him face to face. Really, my relationship to Valentino was reading about his case on paper, and I think There is that human element of needing to see someone in front of you and see for yourself if you think they could have committed a crime.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi.
Hi.
Have a seat right there, okay?
All right. How's everybody?
Good. I get to finally meet you.
Likewise. Oh, we're okay.
Could you talk to us about that day of the shooting up until your arrest?
Okay, the day of the shooting, I went up to Bailey and Delavan, which was Louis, okay, which was like a social place to hang out. Everybody hanged out there on the weekend, and it was summertime. So any given day in the summertime, basically. And at any given time, it's like 60 people, 100 people out there. Anyway, I go up to Bailey, and Leonard and Twan and Lamore and Mario, all of them are out there already.
Are you familiar with any of them?
I'm familiar with everybody, okay? But I'm not really close with none of them. When I arrive on the scene, everybody's hanging out and everything, and they fill me in on what happened prior to me getting there, okay? And, you know, me being young, I didn't really think it was gonna be a big deal. I kind of like brushed it off when they were filling me in on all that, oh, this guy said he'll be back. And I goes into the delicatessen to grab a beer, okay? I'm reaching down in the cooler, and I hear shots, just that quick, pop, pop. Right? Instead of staying in the store, I run out of the store, you know, to see what's going on. And this is when I see, I didn't know him at the time, but Tori and Aaron tussling with Mario. Okay, I see this whole exchange, right? And Leonard is like standing by, but Tori, he had a gun in his hand. I couldn't see nothing in Aaron's hand. So I grabbed Twan, because Twan was like off to the side, okay? Because Lamore come running up and shooting up in the air. And like everybody started scattering, okay? So I grabbed Twan and said, let's go, come on. You know, let's get out of here, okay? And we run around the situation and run to my car, and I left. Nobody came with me. I left all by myself, never returned back to the scene. I was gone. Somebody called on an anonymous tip or call and said that they believed that the shooting was over a girl and that Valentino was responsible, okay? So here we got all of it. And then the family, the mother, the parents went to the newspaper and told the newspaper that the shooting was over a girl and that I was threatening her sons. Now bear in mind, I didn't even know these kids. I never spoke to them, didn't know them, didn't have any issues with them. Once they arrested me and I told them everything, and they says, well, we got witnesses that's saying that you did this shooting. And I'm saying, that's impossible. You know, you got 60 people out there, and a lot of people know what I look like. You know, they know me from driving these cars around and stuff like that. Even the people that I've only talked to know what I look like, right? Well, this is just crazy, but I'm not finna volunteer any information. Only thing I'm saying is that it was some shooters and I drove, you know, I got up out of there, you know, and that wasn't enough. You know, they told me, like, if you don't tell us what happened here, then you're gonna get charged with it. You know, and I kept my mouth shut, you know, and I figured that it would all work itself out. When you have that many people, there's no way that the truth is not gonna come out. So, okay, you wanna make a fool of yourself? They stripped me of everything. They told me if I shot a gun that they would take my, you know, clothes and test them and everything. So I'm saying, okay, then you're gonna make a fool of yourself, you know, and this thing is gonna get cleared up in a couple days, you know, and it never did.
Why didn't you tell us about your experience with Terra Nova in the lead up to the trial?
Okay, well, Terra Nova came to visit me one time, and I think the visit lasted 20 minutes, okay?
So you had one meeting before
One
trial.
meeting before trial.
That's it?
That's it. I met him one time before trial, and that was it. And I knew something was wrong, all right? But what he did was this, okay? When I met him, he told me that there might not even be a trial. He says everybody in the DA's office is saying that Bellings had to have no reason to even take this to trial. Like, what is he doing? Like, what's going on here? And Terra Nova told me he worked in that office for 7 years, okay? So he knew these people. I said, okay. So he kind of eased me, like he made me feel like, okay, it's not even gonna be a trial, because I mean, like, how can you even have a trial? Like, you know, what's going on here, right? So when they gave us a trial date, okay, and he hadn't came to see me, this is when my mother and them went to his office, and he's like, listen, we got these witnesses out here, and he ain't talked to none of them. So we need to go in there, and we're gonna tape record this guy because we feel like he's setting you up. When he asked them to find a murder weapon, I'm like, what is this guy talking about? Like, wait, hold on a minute. You think I did this? If you ask my parents to find a murder weapon, that means that you think I did this. You know what I'm saying? And that was like, what the hell is going on here? I'm still confident that justice is gonna prevail. He's gonna call the witnesses, and I'm gonna walk, I don't know if I'm gonna walk out, but I'm gonna be cleared of this, okay? And when he didn't give an opening statement, that, I was young, but I knew something wasn't right there. How is you gonna waive your opening statement? And then you got Bellings coming in there and saying, well, he's gonna call witnesses. Now bear in mind, right? I don't know these people. Never seen them before, never talked to them before, never been introduced to them. They get on the stand and they stand out to this shooting, right? And I'm like, what kind of people is this? Now, I know I come from a bad place, but I can't never imagine lying on somebody on a murder trial. Like, really, like, who does that? Like, I didn't even know these type of people existed. So we have no physical evidence and we have no motive. Now, let's speak about the witnesses, because this was their entire case, okay? So go to John Sullivan. He says, okay, you're 150 yards away in the dark and you see his face. Yes. You know what he's wearing? No. The truth is, Mr. Sullivan, that you looked from 150 yards in the dark. Then you brought yourself 2 beers? Yes. Okay. Did you have anything to smoke? Did you have any other sort of drug? Anything like that? Yes. What did you have? I had some marijuana and some cocaine.
This is the first witness.
This is the first witness, okay? Now let's go to the second witness, Emo Adams. Emo Adams stated on more than one occasion that he did not tell the truth. Emo Adams stated that he was coerced by the district attorney to give false testimony against Valentino Dixon. That's witness number 2. Okay, witness number 3 is Aaron Jackson. You don't tell the police that Valentino Dixon is the shooter. How do we get from that point to the courtroom here today where you're pointing out Valentino Dixon as the shooter? How do we do that? My memory gets better with time. Your memory gets better with time? Yes, exactly. I was convicted on this testimony. They violated my most basic constitutional fundamental right to a fair trial. That's clear here. Everybody knows me, right? I'm not no perfect guy. I'm not no angel or nothing like that. But killing somebody, never, ever, never that type of person. When they accused me of this, like, it hit me so hard, right? It just killed me. You know what I'm saying? Like, blame me for something else, but don't blame me of this, because there's no coming back from this. Like, even if I was to get my freedom tomorrow, I'm labeled a murderer. You know what I'm saying? Most people know that he didn't do that regardless. We know him. He didn't do that. But people that don't know me say like, well, all right, they let him out, but it's a possibility that he did this. This is something that's hanging over me for the rest of my life. You know what I'm saying? And it's like doing double time, okay? Because if you're in prison for something that you did, it's easier to do the time. But you're in prison for something you didn't do, it's like doing double time, okay? And it's just a major violation on your soul, to be accused of something that you didn't do.
Do you remember how you felt when you saw those witnesses on the stand, and do you remember how you felt when the guilty verdict was read out?
When he gave me 39 years or whatever he gave me, I think I was in space. I didn't even hear the number, really, to be honest with you.
How do you stop yourself from feeling so angry and frustrated?
Well, I pray a lot, and I try to help as many people in here as possible, okay? And this has kept me from being bitter and angry. Actually, the artwork is what motivates me. It inspires me to be a great artist. I take this nightmare and this pain that I feel and I put it into the art, and art is like, it's been like a spiritual journey for me.
What do you think about your daughter having children and?
Let me say this. I'm gonna be the best granddad in the world. You know what I'm saying? Because I wasn't there for them. I tried my best from here, but I wasn't there for them. And I can't imagine you know, what she had to go through without having her father. I feel so bad because for my mother, she lost all of her birthdays. I was arrested on her birthday. She hadn't had a birthday in 27 years. And I feel so bad for her, you know? And I just want to get out and make her proud.
I was pleasantly surprised at how warm and kind he was. I mean, over the phone, it's always a brief conversation, so he's more kind of frustrated with the case and more stressed to get the things he needs to communicate across to us. And in person, when we had time and when we had come all the way to see him, he was incredibly kind-hearted and sweet.
I was 100% or 99% sure of his innocence, and I think before I met him, I was kind of afraid that I would have a bad feeling, or I wouldn't really have the right impression. And actually, I think he's the nicest person and he's very lovely. So I was very glad that I could finally meet him, because we've been working on his case for 3 months and we've been talking to him, and so really actually seeing him for the first time was an incredible moment. And now that I've met him, I'm really convinced of his innocence. You can see in the way he speaks, in the way he behaves, that he cannot commit a murder.
John told Alex on the phone that he has something he wanted to tell us that he couldn't say on the phone.
I'll probably talk more than I have in the past.
Oh, go for it.
Okay.
Because, I mean, you've been the one talking to him the most, because he has your
Morning.
phone number.
Right. We're here for an attorney visit. John Muss. We're good? Thank you, sir. All right.
At the beginning of this process, did you have doubts about his innocence at all?
I think that I did have doubts at the beginning. I mean, there's a lot of moving pieces in John's case, and it seemed like the prosecution had put up quite a lot of evidence that they said pointed to John's guilt. I think that's eroded over time quite a lot. I think that all of that evidence that could have potentially been against John, it just falls away when you look at it. And getting to see him in person and asking him direct questions and saying, just talking about his innocence. I mean, it was believable, it was human, it was everything that I look for.
Before I met John, I was like 99.9% confident of his innocence. Now it's 100. But in person, you can see somebody's face, and you can see how they react to things and sort of what they're thinking. And I'm not a person that I think is very easy to deceive. And John just is so, you can tell he's genuine and sincere and he means what he says.
Sometimes I'm optimistic and sometimes I think, you know, we'll get him out. And then there are other days where I just wake up and I think, oh my God, so many lawyers have been trying to get John out for 38 years. What are we gonna do? We're college kids. We don't have law degrees. What are we gonna do? So today was one of the good days.
In order for the West Virginia State Parole Board to grant you parole, you have to show remorse, which means that you have to admit guilt. And John, he told us again today, he'll never do that. John's case is hard. He effectively has 2 options. The first is that he's exonerated and found innocent of these crimes, and that's obviously the goal we're pursuing with our investigative work, is to try to demonstrate that. And we're hoping that maybe a prosecutor one day will agree and drop those charges. And the second option is that he dies in prison.
You know, I want justice, and I want someone that would want justice too. You know, that would look at this case and say, no matter what it takes, I'm going to take it on. You understand what I'm saying? That's what I want. I want justice.
If we could go back to 1992, the Valentino Dixon case, could you tell us what you remember about that case?
I tried it against Joe Terranova, who is probably one of the better criminal defense lawyers and the criminal defense lawyer for difficult defendants, because he thinks things through a lot. Contrary to what the rest of the proof was, the grand jury voted to indict Mario German and Leonard Brown for perjury, and the case then proceeded to trial.
And do you recall the 3 prosecution witness testimonies that were put in the trial?
I recall almost all the testimony.
Emil Adams, John Sullivan III, and Aaron Jackson, their
Right.
testimonies,
Yes.
which were the ones that convicted Valentino.
Well, they're the ones that identified Valentino. The whole situation convicted Valentino.
Well, there wasn't any physical evidence or motive in the trial, so it was a reliance on those 3.
Aaron Jackson said his memories has gotten better with time. Well, if you ever prepare to testify at a trial and you sit down and read all your statements, your memory does get better. And that's what he was talking about. He was at that point refreshed memory-wise to the point that he remembered this as the day it happened.
Well, we talked to an eyewitness ID, and she said that actually it wasn't really true, and on the contrary, when you're an eyewitness and you see all this information, you tend to transform your memory more than actually it getting better.
I think it is an established fact that the memories that you have the night after you'll never realize anything more. Your memory will never significantly improve. You think it was fair that Valentino was convicted on someone saying that their memory got better with time, when, as we've established, that's not really something that can happen?
You're talking about 2 different things. What is happening in trial is Joe Terranova's cross-examining Aaron, and Aaron is saying that his memory got better. What Aaron means, terminology, is my memory is fully refreshed. I studied my police statement, I studied my grand jury testimony, the event is fresh in my mind. He may have used language that was less than accurate in terms of whatever discipline you're looking at. But the point is that Aaron Jackson at that point was as prepared to testify and as recollective of the event as he ever could have been.
Emil Adams, he said that later that he felt coerced into making those statements, and John Sullivan III said that he was on a mix of alcohol and drugs on the night, and it was also a significant amount of distance from the event. It was dark, as you know, it was late at night, and he was also currently convicted for a rape charge, I believe.
Witnesses to crime are often people who have been drinking, taking something, compromised in terms of, distance and lighting conditions.
I believe it was cocaine and marijuana and alcohol. Do you not think that would impair witness testimony?
All depends on who you are. I've had witnesses tell me that any one of those substances actually enhances their ability to perceive things. Witnesses will make those comments. Yeah, I was all coked up, I was seeing great.
Since the justice system is about proving beyond reasonable doubt, you said, and we talked to Joseph Terrano, he said the same thing, that it's always difficult to have really good witnesses because, as you said, some may be under drugs or alcohol, and since in that case there were no physical evidence, is it fair to say that it's beyond a reasonable doubt?
Do I think it's fair? Yeah, because here the jury was convinced beyond a reasonable doubt, and that's why Valentino was convicted.
But actually in this jury, it wasn't really reasonable doubt, since the jury foreman came to the judge and said, I think we may have made a mistake. So what do you think about that?
One juror after the fact saying, I heard something about the case and I think I made a mistake, is legally insufficient to impeach the verdict, and certainly I think the result of buyer's remorse.
Did you think that defense attorney Joseph Terranova, did you think that he performed adequately during the trial?
I've known Joe for probably 40 years and I have never had any questions about his performance. He's just a good lawyer.
The fact that he didn't present any defense witnesses or didn't make an opening statement, did that not ring alarm bells?
If you got nothing, what are you going to open on? He had nothing. What witnesses was he going to call?
There was the perjury charge.
Right, exactly. You got Leonard Brown and Mario German, who the grand jury determined should be charged with perjury, and that did in fact put them in a compromising position. And so what's Joe Terranova going to do? Call Leonard Brown to the stand, and on cross-examination I get up and say, by the way, the grand jury thought you were a liar.
Why do you think Lamar Scott was not tried with perjury himself?
Because he went in the grand jury and he retracted his lying statement. Lamar Scott went to the grand jury and said, hey, it wasn't me, it was Valentino Dixon. So there was no perjury to prosecute him for. He factually agreed with the facts assembled before that grand jury.
We've talked about Lamar Scott and how he confessed 2 nights after the crime and how he's continued to confess for years after that. What do you think about that?
As I said on an earlier occasion, Lamar Scott is never going to be prosecuted for this case at this point in time, no matter what he says, because Valentino Dixon has been convicted. The process has gone through its steps, and he has been convicted.
We talked to a lawyer, and he said that it was actually not true, and that in Buffalo you can be tried if Valentino, for instance, the charges are dropped, that actually you can convict someone else.
Well, maybe the difference between academic lawyering and practical lawyering. I'm speaking practically.
He was a practical lawyer.
Well, I don't care if he's practical. Has he ever done it? Until he's done it, he doesn't know, and I've done a lot, and I disagree with him. Of course you can. There's no legal impediment. We could turn around tomorrow and charge Lamar Scott. But look at the situation here. You've got a practical aspect. We're going to try Lamar Scott for a crime that somebody else has been convicted of, and that conviction's never been reversed. It just doesn't make any practical sense. And Lamar Scott's not even eligible for parole till this year, 2018.
Well, considering that so many witnesses have come forward over the years, more so than those who have said that it was Valentino.
It's impossible to draw any other conclusion than that Valentino did it. So I certainly wouldn't have any misgivings or self-doubts at this point. I think the case has been proven. I think that people that are coming forward after the fact, late contributors, if at all, who can't take credit for contributing, and who are also on board with, if you will, the Flavor of the Month Club. It's in vogue to be able to say that we're helping people that were wrongfully convicted. Even if they aren't wrongfully convicted, that's still in vogue. And if you have a situation where your premise is there's a wrongful conviction and you can get on that train, why not?
And so basically you have this balance of, against Valentino you only have these 3 witnesses, and for Valentino you have 15 witnesses, Lamar Scott, no physical evidence. So even without saying that the decision was wrong 30 years ago, do you think now with all the new information we got, maybe today, if the trial was today, could that be different now?
Well, both of you keep saying is there's no physical evidence. What physical evidence should there have been? This is a shooting on the street.
Valentino's clothes were taken into evidence and his hands were tested for gunshot residue, and none of that evidence was presented in court when it could have been, which is physical evidence.
Well, gunshot residue evidence is also incredibly unreliable evidence to the fact that to the point where we don't even do it anymore. Because, for example, if I were to fire a gun in that corner of the room, we'd all test positive for gunshot residue. So gunshot residue testing on the positive side turned out to be unreliable. On the negative side is there are ammunition components that are available to everybody every day that do not contain barium, antimony, and lead, which is what GSR, gunshot residue testing, tests for. So if the ammunition used happened to be non-barium, antimony, and lead ammunition, then you'd get a negative, which is, by the way, what we got in the Valentino Dixon case. So that physical evidence was unreliable physical evidence, and therefore doesn't concern me.
Do you not agree that there are wrongful convictions?
Oh, there absolutely are wrongful convictions. This isn't one of them.
Are you aware that the county DA's office has said that they would not oppose a post-conviction motion?
For what? A motion to do what, though?
A 440 motion.
Well, I think he may have already made a 440 motion. I'm sure that the district attorney's office will study the motion, respond to it appropriately, and take it from there.
Well, it's that we arranged an interview with the DA. We're actually meeting with him tomorrow, and he read the file and contacted Valentino's lawyer, Don Thompson, and said that...
Who read the file? John Flynn?
Yeah, and he said that he would not oppose the 440 motion.
But the question is, what's the relief? What does Valentino Dixon want? Does he want a new trial?
Yeah, for a new trial.
That's the DA's business. He can make those determinations. That's why he got elected.
Could you comment on that motion or the DA's decision?
No.
And you said you don't think it's a wrongful conviction case?
No.
So why?
Because it's a proper conviction. We had 3 eyewitnesses who said Valentino did it, and a jury of 12, properly instructed by a skilled judge, said he was guilty. That's why.
This is the firearms ID report. This is what they recovered from Kenneth's room. The .25 caliber auto cartridges.
So like, how could you test the extractor marks when they couldn't be cycled through?
I was like, how would you know they could even be cycled through without the murder weapon? And then the two pieces of evidence that convicted him, both an eyewitness ID as well as a ballistics expert testimony, were not necessarily grounded in the most substantial pieces of evidence. The eyewitness was not even very sure that it was Kenneth Bond. And for the ballistic stuff, they were trying to convict him on evidence that could not have been used without the murder weapon, which they still have not found to this day.
In the Kenneth Bond case, they had cartridge casings, they had live rounds of ammunition, they had a firearm recovered, and they had a couple of projectiles recovered from, I believe, the autopsy. The extractor marks are not foolproof signs for ballistic examiners to make a call on. That's taken into consideration with other things, but you cannot go by just extractor marks by themselves. They didn't have the weapon, and how did they make the match? How are they matching? Let's say he had .25 caliber live rounds of ammunition on his person. You're not going to tell me that they came from that particular gun just by extractor marks. You need a little bit more than that. You need a lot more than that. Did they check the GRC to narrow it down to the types of guns that bullet could have possibly came out of? Did they do that? No, they didn't do that. So it's stuff that they should have done, and bullet identification, you could have did it back then. Where's your sketch? Where's your photo micrograph images? Where's your, something? Show me some proof that those marks matched. Kenneth shouldn't have been convicted based on the ballistics, just on extractor marks, no. An eyewitness testimony or flawed eyewitness testimony, no. It's got to be re-looked at, should be re-looked at.
Can you tell us your impressions when you read the documents?
My impression was that there are a lot of questions that need to be answered here. My gut reaction was I found it a little unbelievable that a jury found Mr. Dixon guilty. But as an individual reading the documents here, I say that on one hand, but on the other hand, as the district attorney, I have to respect, obviously, the jury's decision. We have to respect that, and we have to recognize that before we, make a determination on what's before us.
Can you tell us your reaction when you heard from the attorney, Mr. Dixon's attorneys, that there would likely be a 440 motion?
I welcomed it. I welcomed it because I think that based upon what I have seen, I think that this case needs a good, long, hard look at all of the newly discovered, from what I believe, evidence that's been brought forward now here in the past, 13, 14 years. As a human being, when you read through this case, you say to yourself, obviously, well, geez, this doesn't seem right here. That there's a lot of evidence out there that's out there that perhaps leads to another individual who may have done this. Mr. Scott, he's now currently incarcerated. His parole is coming up in this November. So Mr. Scott has got a lot to lose here, I believe. And for Mr. Scott to continue to maintain that he did it and not Mr. Dixon, that obviously raises my eyebrows and says, wait a minute here, what motive does he have to continue to say he did it? Why would he do that? Especially when he's facing parole in less than 6 months. So that probably is a number one fact here that has created a conviction integrity unit where I have one individual in my office now who is assigned to review all different kinds of types of these cases. And they work with my appellate division here to look at all these old cases because I recognize and realize that mistakes can be made in the past. And if mistakes were made, they need to be fixed. I mean, I am of the firm belief, and I think that not only every district attorney in this country, but everyone in this country who deals and works in the criminal justice system should hold on to this one belief, and that is that it is much worse for an innocent person to be in jail than it is for a guilty person to go free.
Yep.
There was no real evidence found against Kenneth being at the crime scene that night other than an eyewitness ID and extractor marks, which are just like microscopic things that you can't even properly test without a murder weapon.
Yeah, and in this case it's been legally debunked, right, that it shouldn't be used as a reliable measure of ballistics material.
And then finally having a defense lawyer that could have been on drugs, but at the end of the day just did not do a good job overall, irrespective of what he was doing or not. It's clear that Kenneth never got a fair trial. And then maybe if he did have a fair trial, he wouldn't be in prison.
This journey following Kenneth's case has been kind of a wild one. A lot of ups and downs, a lot of moments where I think we weren't sure if we had the evidence to prove he was innocent, if we even believed that he was innocent. We found out that the two main pieces of evidence that were used to convict him were completely, if not totally useless, at least highly flawed. The eyewitness identification should have been thrown out. It was no good. Julie, you're talking about his first interview when they brought him in November 27th, right?
I thought that I read that he said that he recognized him.
He said that he recognized him, but he didn't say
his name.
Let me pull it up.
Which is crucial because Kenneth says he didn't rob that guy that Ahmad says he saw. He wasn't the guy he thought he was.
Hello? Hi, this is she.
Guys had sent me via the mail.
Yeah.
That wanted to speak about the Kenneth Bond case.
Yes, that's us. We're so sorry for pestering you, but we just would love to have gotten your account of what you saw that night, and how you were feeling after, you know, all of these years, whether or not you thought that there was a possibility that Kenneth was innocent.
Yeah, I don't feel pestered at all, to be honest with you. I didn't know that you guys were actually working on this project. I was a victim too. I was a victim that evening. I'd be willing to talk to you guys. Just let me know where you'd like to meet, and we can arrange that.
Yeah, we would love to talk to you.
Okay?
Great. Thank you so much.
Yep, no problem.
Rob, good catch with the phone! Wow! Oh my god! I'm so glad we sent the letter.
Guys, I deleted the post.
Good job. I'm gonna go edit the website.
I was a witness the night of the murder. It was Monday, I believe it was, November 27th, 1995. I was leaving the campus of Morgan State University. I was an off-campus student. So I crossed the street on Hillen Road to go to the bus stop. I had heard a clicking sound, and I heard him say, well, you know what time it is. Give me everything that you have. Terrence said, as he looked back at him, was, what, are you gonna shoot me? And at that moment, I heard what sounded like a gun go off. And I briefly turned and looked toward the direction where I heard the sound, and I saw muzzle fire. And I started, as I was looking back, I was running away from the incident toward the corner of Hillen and Cold Spring.
And the person that shot the gun, do you remember seeing his face? Do you remember seeing the details about how he looked like?
When the gentleman walked past me, I do remember looking at him. I sort of acknowledged what he was wearing. And I do remember looking up briefly just to sort of glance at his face. So I did glance at his face, yes.
So after the crime took place, what happened after that?
I was initially asked, while I was giving my statement, if I was able to identify the person who had committed the crime. After several hours giving my statement, having my hands swabbed, etc., the two lead detectives had given me a ride home. At some point, because I stayed off campus, at some point the police officers, the lead detectives, they showed me another array, at which time they had indicated that they had a strong suspicion on who they thought had committed the crime. In hindsight, at one point, I felt like perhaps I had seen the same photo that he had shown me of Mr. Bond. I had seen that same photo before, at least on one other occasion, maybe on two other occasions. And in hindsight, I feel like I recognized him because I had seen that same photo multiple times. At some point I was cross-examined by the defense, and he asked me, was I aware that I had trace amounts of those elements on my person the night of the incident? And I told him that I wasn't aware of that. He asked, did I know how that might have gotten on my hand? And I told him I didn't know. I had absolutely no clue.
And to this day, you still have no idea on that. I mean, thinking back, do you think you were close enough to the shooter that the trace amounts could have come onto your hand, or do you just have no idea?
I can sit here and speculate, and I may have been a little bit closer to the shooter than the 10 or 15 feet that I had said. There could have been secondary transfer from the police car to the police station to, so there's any number of ways. That I don't know. And I still don't know to this day.
And when you made the identification, did you indicate that you were sure that that was Kenneth?
I indicated that I was not 100% sure that that was Kenneth. From the very first time that I was shown a photo array, all the way through, I was never 100% sure that Kenneth Bond was the person that I saw that evening. There were a lot of people that wanted justice. I was one of them, but not to the extent that I would bear false witness. So I made it clear to the homicide detectives all along that I saw this person for all of maybe 2 or 3 seconds. It was dark, dimly lit. The person had something covering their head. So there was a lot that I could not see, and there was a lot that I was uncertain of. And I made that clear all the way through. To know that there's a person that's convicted, has spent 23 years now in jail because of my testimony and the testimony of a ballistics expert is really shocking to me. I don't believe that that's the way that the justice system ought to work. I believe that everyone should have a fair shake. They're entitled to a fair trial. And if this person's freedom hinges on the testimony that I had given and the testimony of the ballistics expert, then I feel really sorry for him. His life should not have been taken away from him based on the testimony that I provided. There's no justice for Terrence McCoy if the wrong person is in jail.
Wow, I am so thankful that he called us when he did. We had so many different experts tell us, like, gunshot residue does not travel 10 feet and land on a concentrated area in between the webbings of your fingers. That does not happen. We thought that Ahmaud was way different.
So when we first were looking into the eyewitness identification in this case, we weren't sure if Ahmaud Williams was this shady guy who maybe was somehow involved in the crime and pinned it on Kenneth to get away with it, or if he just pinned the wrong guy. It was clear he was really thoughtful about his involvement in the case then and now, 23 years later, and he had a lot of really interesting things to say about the process of making this identification and kind of his emotional journey of thinking about this case and his involvement in it. And he really made it clear that his evidence was completely misused at trial. It shouldn't have been used as to definitively place Kenneth at the scene.
Well, we want to welcome you to our class. Marty's going to pan the camera so you see.
Everybody can say hello. Hi.
So these are our 16 students who are doing groundbreaking work on the 4 cases.
The John Moss group, he does not have a lawyer, but that is a Fred Zane case.
It's a mind-boggling case.
I guess what I'm still mystified about it is why the West Virginia courts would conclude that any Fred Zane serology, which is presumptively unreliable, can't even tell if he did the tests, and we can get into whether the results actually are correct anyhow. I mean, even assuming he got the results. But they should just be assuming all those are null and void, and then look at the rest of the evidence in the case, which sounds like you're telling the court did, right? Mm-hmm. And given what we now know about false confessions, it sounds like the husband's the one that's giving details that lead to incriminating information, corroborating with the forensics, and Moss doesn't. If that's really the case, there may be a way to get back into court and revisit this. Congratulations to all of you. It looks like a great course. Let's get a few of these people out of jail. Marty and Mark for allowing me to come in and spend some time with this incredible class that you put together.
Thank you so much, Barry, for your time, for your insights, and thank you for everything you've done, because you've made this movement possible. You got this started from the beginning. And now it's just so vast and it's spreading, and we're now a small part in spreading it, but it all started with you, and we really appreciate you coming and speaking to us today. So I have to say I'm really proud of how the students are doing. It's happened so quickly, I can't believe we're nearing the end. We're on the home stretch now, right? Everybody ready? Good evening, and welcome to Making an Exoneree. Who would have thought, Marty, when we first met at 3 years old at Lovey-Dovey Preschool, that we'd be here today? I want to say a few words about our students, because what they've done this semester is absolutely extraordinary, and I don't think you can quite understand what they've accomplished. So let me explain. First off, remember, these are undergraduates. Right? The media that covers us keeps calling them law students, but no, they don't have a BA yet. And we were asking them to create documentaries that could potentially save an innocent person's life. That's not a small task.
I figured that it would all work itself out. When he gave me 39 years or whatever he gave me, I think I was in space.
My name is Wright Jr., and I am wrongfully convicted of the murder of Justin Bumgarner.
When Timothy said, if I get out, I'm going to help others. That was his first thought. I'm going to help others get out that have been wrongly put in.
Adults who, make a difference,
I will never forget when the detectives came in my home and said that they were looking for my grandson.
I'm hopelessly optimistic. We have been here for that long for something I had nothing to do with my love that has always been. How can I make the most out of this situation?
There's no justice for Terrence McCoy if the wrong person is in jail.
I'm not sure if you heard that, but now the microphone is yours.
What this documentary has meant to me, it has given me the number one thing that you could give a person in my situation. It represents opportunity for a second chance.
In Valentino Dixon's case, unfortunately, New York State would not allow him to be available by the phone. He's locked in his cell right now. I want you to remember that and think about that. Now live, we have Tim Wright.
Hey Tim, you're live.
Say again.
You're live. You're speaking to the audience right now.
Okay, you want me to talk now?
Yep.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy lives to support my case for innocence and that of the other three here tonight. This experience has been both stressful and exciting. As a Marine veteran, it was always my duty to reach down and give my hand to someone who needed it. But today it's me who needs your hand. I have fought for 10 years to demonstrate and prove my innocence.
John Moss III, live from West Virginia, Mount Olive Correctional Complex.
All right, John, you're on.
Hello, my name is John Moss. I would like to thank Professor Howard and Professor Tackliff for all that they have done trying to help people like me, trying to bring awareness to the injustice inmates and people are having throughout the country. I want them to know that I appreciate everything they have done for me. I have a lot of people that I want to thank. My best friend, Jimmy, King Clark, and Brian Ferguson, for 38 years to help me deal with the problems that I've been having here in this prison. I have been unjustly treated for something I didn't do. And I'm begging so much to please help. I have no feeling when I'm locked up. I have no more. I don't know. I have two brothers and two sisters. I have two sisters. They're sitting down there now. And I love them. My hope, my prayer is to somebody that begins with me to help me reconnect with my family and the family that I have picked up along the way. In this 38 years, it's been hard. And I just think somebody was step on board.
Please state and spell your name for the record.
Lamar Scott, L-A-R-R-S-C-O-T-T.
On August 10th of 1991, at approximately 1:15 a.m., while in the vicinity of Bailey and East Delavan, with the intent to cause serious physical injury to Toriano Jackson, did you cause his death by shooting him?
Yes, I did.
And how do you plead to a violation of Penal Law 125.20, Subdivision 1, manslaughter in the first degree?
Guilty.
Sentencing will be scheduled for October 4th in the morning. That will be held on the third floor at Part 18. Thank you, Mr. Scott.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, come on up front here. Come on front. How you doing today? Good. How are you?
Good.
Good morning, everyone. When I first took over this job last year, one of the things that I did was establish a conviction integrity unit in this office. You know, it's not my job to put people in jail. It's not my job to let people out of jail. That's not my job. My job is to do justice. In this case right here, justice is Lamar Scott pleading to the charge.
Mr. Dixon, given the facts and circumstances of this case and the people's extensive investigation and their position with regard to your motion, I will grant your motion to vacate your convictions for murder in the second degree. You are eligible for release today. Congratulations.
Thank you, Your Honor.
That's really the moment when I realized that, yes, he's actually going out, he's actually going to meet his family again, and that was, I was just happy.
I've been waiting for this day. I was 4 months old, spent my whole life going to see Daddy in prison. Now,
Big day. Wow, y'all. Everybody's, oh, Marty. Oh, wow.
Big day. Made a commitment to you? Kept my commitment? You're home?
Thank you.
Love y'all. Here's my team. Jason, come on. I know I had a lot of supporters, but to walk out of that courthouse and to see all of those people there,
it was really emotional to see him walk through that door. I just felt overwhelmed, emotional, happy. I almost felt like crying really, because that was just the stress that we had been through that came out, and seeing that finally he would be released.
Got my favorite cool street wife. In a million years, I wouldn't have dreamed of this type of ending, you know, or that many people will be there waiting for me. You know, it was family members there that I haven't seen in 20 years, and it was just mind-boggling, you know, but it's the greatest experience in the world.
Where are all my grandkids? I got like 7 grandkids.
Hello. Oh,
how are you?
Where's Cindy at? Oh, Cindy. Hey. Oh, wow.
What does this moment like for you? How do you feel about it? Valentino, excuse me.
This is the greatest feeling in the world. You know, this is the greatest feeling in the world. It's undescribable, and we've been waiting 27 years for this moment.
When you first met the students, did you think you would end up here 6 months later?
No, but the students gave me the most hope that I've ever felt in 27 years.
The work had already been done by Valentino, by Tina, by Don Thompson. Everyone had already brought all these elements, and we just arrived and kind of pushed things.
When the students got on board, it was like, this is gonna happen.
Our team called up the office every day to try and get an interview with the DA, and it was really hard to secure. And I think he was obviously forced to look at this file.
When the students got involved and you guys said that you were doing a documentary, you know, and you laid out a plan, then I knew it was gonna happen. And everybody around me knew it was gonna happen. The minute I mentioned Georgetown, they said, oh, you're going home. Nobody had any doubt. You know, nobody had any reservations. It's unbelievable, you know, unbelievable.
Everybody look at me for a second. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Freedom!
It's been amazing to see this journey.
They've just done an incredible job.
As an exoneree and as a professor, it's probably one of the proudest moments you can have because you know you've succeeded.
For this to happen is an out-of-this-world experience for me. It seems almost miraculous that this actually panned out and that he got to walk free.
John's innocence was so clear, and his continued incarceration was such an outrage to anyone who spent even 5 minutes looking at the case. John went from being a case to being a dear friend, because that day we discovered a man who was beaten down but not broken. John deserved a happy ending. John Moss III was kind, compassionate, caring, loyal, and unbelievably deserving of help and true justice. We will never forget John. We will never stop pushing for his innocence, and we will never give up on his fight for justice.
How could you believe someone is innocent and walk away? If you walk away, then you're basically accepting defeat and you're allowing somebody to languish in prison and die there. And you have to live with that you allowed someone to die when you had an opportunity to help.
You might need MIDI if you ever hairsprayed your bangs into a waterfall, layered slouch socks, tied a scrunchie to the bottom corner of your t-shirt, or tried to go for a run with a CD player. If this took you down memory lane, you might need MIDI. Perimenopause can start 10 years before you actually go through menopause, so for some women, that can be as early as 35. Nobody ever told you that? Well, nobody told us either. That's why we built MIDI. If you're experiencing symptoms like night sweats, weight gain, or just generally don't feel like yourself anymore, you may be in perimenopause. But here's some good news. With the right care, these symptoms are treatable. Book a virtual visit with a menopause specialist at MIDI. Visit joinmidi.com to schedule with an expert who gets it. Specialist-led care, virtual visits, insurance eligible. Midlife needs MIDI. Results may vary. Medications prescribed only if clinically appropriate based on a consultation with a clinician. Insurance coverage varies. Check with your plan for coverage.